This fight was fierce. The difference between the first day at the sanctuary and now was like yin and yang. Sha Jingyu felt regret in her heart, a regret that was too late to express. Feeling the strong wind on her head, Sha Jingyu saved her last look in life and fixed her gaze on Su Yu. It was as if she wanted to engrave the last image of him in her heart during the last moments of her life. The gale finally hit. Sha Jingyu was prepared to bear the anguish of death. But the gale brushed past the top of her head, bringing with it a warm gentle liquid. The anguish she had anticipated did not appear. In the end, death also never arrived. Lifting her gaze, she saw a headless body stopped within 10 feet of them. As she observed the size of the body, she realized, was that not the big brother obscurer? She realized the object which had flown over her head had been the man's head. Its face registered a look of wrath at death's door, along with a slightly puzzled expression. Until death, he had been unaware of any. The man had suffered only a mere puzzlement as to why he was separated from his body. Upon closer examination, the spot behind the headless corpse had a transparent fine silk thread entwined around both sides of the rock wall, which extended horizontally across the cave at neck height. It was this silk thread which had severed the neck of the obscurer, for 2 reasons. Firstly, the height of the neck was a blind spot for human eyes. It was difficult to detect. Secondly, the second obscurer had been charged with anger and ran too fast. The sharp entwined dragon silk could cut all living things, and the final result was inevitable with the high speed. In fact, earlier while they had been 5 miles away, Su Yu had already observed these 2 obscurers setting up a trap. One of them pretended to be injured and entered the cave while the other hid outside, ready for the conjoined attacks before and after. After some detailed calculations, Su Yu decided to benefit from the situation and take the risk of walking into the trap. Upon entering the cave, he immediately set up the entwined dragon silk at the entrance in order to achieve the result of catching the enemy unaware and destroying them. Everything had gone according to plan. The 2 strong level 7 lower tiers had fallen into his hands at the same time. Sha Jingyu could not bear to see too much of the bloody scene. Her pretty eyes were furious. She wanted to kill the frozen obscurer. Wait, spare his life, I have a use for him. Su Yu's eyes flashed as he searched the 2 obscurers' bodies. On their backs were sturdy jade bottles embedded into their flesh. The jade bottles seemed to be connected to their hearts. If the slayers tried to take off the jade bottles, it would shatter their hearts and cause death. Su Yu nodded inwardly. Their exile to the evil forest was not without a cost. Presumably, they must have suffered the ultimate pain upon being embedded with the bottles. At the same time, it was thanks to the direct connection from bottle to heart that the sanctuary students did not need to worry about the slayers hiding or destroying their bottles. This ensured that every sanctuary disciple could obtain a jade bottle if they killed a slayer. Su Yu took out the jade hammer with the power of the Holy King and cracked open the jade bottle in order to retrieve the 2 pieces of scarlet body elixir. There was only a pinprick's worth of liquid, but it was filled with intense energy, like a ball of sunlight radiating heat. With some excitement and anticipation, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu each took 1 elixir and swallowed them on the spot. Whoosh! Boiling heat seeped into all 4 limbs and bones. There appeared to an explosive surge of powerful force, increasing their stagnated cultivation bases dramatically. Thump, thump. Suddenly, the 2 of them broke through to the start of level 6. Furthermore, their cultivation bases did not stagnate and continued to climb as before. Finally, as anticipated by Chu Changjian, they reached level 6 upper tier. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu quickly glanced at each other, their eyes lit up with delight. The Saint-grade spirit elixir was indeed extraordinary. If they could obtain a few more, breaking through to the top level would not be difficult. However, they now understood the risk. Slayers were cruel, murderous, and extremely dangerous. The 2 obscurers had nearly caused their demise. But the obscurers had the weakest power among many of the slayer. They would fall if they encountered one who was even a little more tyrannical. The 2 of them never stopped their cultivation. Their actual cultivation bases were only a part of their cumulative skill level. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu had taken advantage of the battle in order to heighten their knowledge in tactics and strategy as well as increase their abilities. While Sha Jingyu quickly reflected on her comprehension of the first use of reverie of dewdrops, Su Yu walked up to the front of the frozen obscurer. What are you going to do? The Obscurer's face was fearful, as his flesh had gradually thawed. Suyu crouched down and looked at him directly in the eye. His pupils turned dark green in an instant, like jade in the dark night, both resplendent and eerie. Swish. After gazing into the jade-green pupils, the Obscurer's eyes immediately became sluggish and his mind was completely blank. Suyu slowly closed his eyes, and used the soul-seeking technique to scan the Obscurer's memory in his mind. A moment later, he opened his eyes and secretly rejoiced. The soul-seeking technique was truly magnificent. The Obscurer's many memories were all searched and, from his memory, Suyu had learned that the obscure fiendish duo had clashed with Du Lin's team half a day ago. No match for the enemy, the two had fled to this point and set up traps to lure in sanctuary disciples in a vain attempt to seize a jade hammer and to take the saint-grade spirit elixir for their own use, so they could break through their cultivation bases. Next, Suyu tried to use the soul control technique. Both of his pupils shone a bright, dark green which illuminated half the dark cave. Ah! The Obscurer screamed several times, seemingly unable to endure the boundless pain. When it was all over, the Obscurer, though restored to normal, could not rid himself of the residual signs of feeble-mindedness. Suyu felt slightly sorry. The soul-controlled technique manipulated the soul, it was oppressive and dangerous. It was inevitable that the controlled soul would be hurt, and that the controlled's ability would be slightly affected by the strength of the technique. I pay my respects to you, Master. The Obscurer groveled and bowed. Besides being oppressive, the soul-controlled technique went beyond affecting the opponent's ability, it could make the other party unable to resist any orders. Unless the Obscurer's strength one day broke into the next level, which would allow him to break out of his bondage, as the soul-controlled technique only allowed Suyu to control those a full level higher than him and below. Suyu nodded indifferently, guard the cave entrance, let no one disturb us. Swish. The Obscurer immediately dashed to the cave entrance and stood on guard. He watched the surroundings attentively for any movement. Suyu immediately sat down to ponder his experience of the recent fight. When Icy Heart Core had first been used, it had complemented Sha Jingyu's reverie of dewdrops, and the resulting attack had multiplied. Suyu wondered whether the two deity-level cultivation techniques belonged together in a set and were meant to be used together. With the comprehension of Icy Heart Core memorized by heart, Suyu took the opportunity to comprehend his other cultivation techniques. After a day, Suyu slowly opened his eyes. The saint-level cultivation technique Floating Light Shadow had progressed the most. He'd reached stage 2 upper class after a day of comprehension. Now his flight speed was faster and his body was as light as a feather. If he could reach stage 3, he could soar through the air and fly high in the sky. Purple Star Thunderbolt was progressing slowly, it still had some ways to go before it reached upper class. Purple Star Thunderbolt was most likely a deity-level cultivation technique, probably of a higher rank, as this explained the difference in comprehension speed. His comprehension of the saint-level cultivation technique Floating Light Shadow was quite fast, so it was abnormal for Purple Star Thunderbolt to be more challenging than the deity-level cultivation technique, Icy Heart Core. In the terms of the Holy Decree, Suyu had progressed his technique. With his comprehension deepening over time, Suyu increasingly felt that his previous simple emulations had been wrong. A true Holy Decree should originate from within one's self, not from emulating others. Suyu had gradually broken away from emulation and had begun to find his own Holy Decree. Hiss. A fragrant aroma filled the area and greatly whetted Suyu's appetite. He glanced sideways, it turned out to be the already awakened Sha Jingyu crouching at the cave entrance as she carefully cooked dinner. As he gazed at the focused and beautiful image of a woman, graceful like a celestial beauty, Suyu's heart sighed with regret. Whoever managed to marry Sha Jingyu would be blessed for the rest of his life. The celestial beauty's exceptional features, lithe and graceful stature, tender-hearted nature, and her strong, perfect heart, she was truly beautiful on the inside and out. Women such as her were rare in the world. When Suyu pictured Sha Jingyu married to another man, his chest ached. With a wry smile, Suyu whispered to himself, I have she on her and I'm still not satisfied. How can I have another woman on my mind? Hearing movement, Sha Jingyu turned back and smiled like a bashful lotus, pure and delicate. You're awake, come eat. Su Yu dared not gaze any further at that pure, beautiful face. He seamlessly avoided sitting across Sha Jingyu as he ate. After they had eaten, the three of them set off for the inner periphery. As for the trap at the cave entrance, Su Yu not only kept it in place, he had also added another line of entwined dragon silk to the trap. Once an enemy fell into it, their doom was guaranteed. Throughout the day they walked until, 20 miles later, they reached the border between the outer and inner peripheries. Beyond them was the inner periphery, where the vast majority of slayers dwelled. Level 7 upper tiers and peaks were everywhere, even terrifying level 8 slayers. If they were inattentive and encountered level 8 slayers, it would be difficult to survive. Ha! Bang! A sudden breeze blew over, carrying the sounds of fighting. Su Yu followed the direction of the breeze as he dilated his crystalline pupils and looked around. The sanctuary disciplines are surrounded 5 miles away, we must assist right away. The scene was a little far away so Su Yu could only roughly see the figures, he was unable to fully distinguish their appearances. Together, Su Yu and his companions rushed to help. 1 mile away, Su Yu's gaze slightly cooled, so it's Du Lin's team. Sha Jingyu did not have a good opinion of Du Lin. If she had known it was Du Lin there earlier, she would not have rushed over. At that moment, Du Lin, Zhang Mingyi, senior sister Lu, and Feng Hao were engaged in difficult combat. They were surrounded by 4 level 7 lower tier slayers, danger was on all sides. Du Lin, a level 7 upper tier, was entangled with 3 slayers. Zhang Mingyi was a level 6 peak, and both senior sister Lu and Feng Hao were level 6 upper tiers. The 3 of them struggled to resist the pressure of a level 7 lower tier slayer. Du Lin was still fine and at ease. But Zhang Mingyi and the rest were in extreme danger. Zhang Mingyi's mouth was full of blood, senior sister Lu's torso was slashed and bloody, and Feng Hao had 3 fingers chopped off, his fist dripped blood. 4 slayers were rebels from Lori Empire, they had killed and cut down countless men in the battlefield and had been deposed after the rape and assault of women. The 4 men harbored bitter resentment and committed evil everywhere. They slaughtered and exterminated common people in village, the nature of their heinous crimes was staggering. The 4 of them campaigned all year around, they were familiar with each other, skilled in coordination, and successful in every undertaking. Su Yu, what should we do? Asked Sha Jingyu. Su Yu pondered for a moment before he helplessly offered a reply, we can turn a blind eye to Du Lin's situation. But, we have no grudge or enmity with senior sister Lu. Moreover, there are 4 pieces of Saint-grade spirit elixir right here, how can we give that up? With them gathered like this, it's easier for us to capture all 4 of them. Otherwise, it would be difficult to cut down all 4 with one-on-one combat. Sha Jingyu nodded in agreement and they immediately made their move. Only the obscurer held back and remained still, following Su Yu's mental command. Reverie of Dewdrops. Purple Star Thunderbolt. After their breakthrough to level 6 upper tier, the absolute crushing dominance of a level 7 lower tier felt much weaker. Su Yu's Purple Star Thunderbolt's formidable power was fully taken advantage of. Aha! Boom! Ah! One of the level 7 lower tier slayers who had Du Lin surrounded was struck in the torso by Su Yu in a flash and perished on the spot. Sha Jingyu's deity-level cultivation technique's formidable power was not any weaker than the Purple Star Thunderbolt, it also struck down a level 7 lower tier in a snap. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu made a silent, joint decision as they quickly collected the Saint-grade spirit elixir before they turned around to kill the slayer suppressing Zhang Mingyi and his team. At first, Du Lin was glad to receive help. Then, when he found out that the Saint-grade spirit elixir had been intercepted by Su Yu of all people, he was enraged. He wanted to prevent Su Yu from killing another slayer, but there was still one more slayer attacking him and Du Lin was unable to free himself. Just as he had been about to kill the slayer attacking him, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu had joined forces and quickly killed the last slayer in order to obtain the Saint-grade spirit elixir. Within minutes, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu had obtained 3 Saint-grade spirit elixirs, Du Lin's team had only gotten 1 piece. Logically, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu, as long as they both swallowed 2 pieces of the Saint-grade spirit elixirs at the same time, could further improve and successfully break through to level 6 peak. In other words, in order to make a breakthrough they just needed to kill 1 more slayer. Although the risks were big in the evil forest, the potential for cultivation base improvements was great. Sha Jingyu and Su Yu were happy beyond words. Full of gratitude, senior sister Lu endured her sharp pain and curtsied in respect. Many thanks to junior brother Su and junior sister Sha. If the two of them had not intervened in time, she would have been doomed. Feng Hao's face was fearful. Only a few days apart, the two of them had been able to join forces to kill a level 7 lower tier. A tremendous pressure weighed on Feng Hao's chest. They were all newcomers from the heavenly sanctuary, but the disparity between their power was already like heaven and earth. Zhang Mingyi's face turned pale, then red. Before their departure, he'd mocked Su Yu and Sha Jingyu. He had said that they would not survive 3 days without any strong protector. But, now it seemed even with a strong man like Du Lin to protect them it would be difficult to survive 2 days, much less 3. Contrastingly, both Su Yu and Sha Jingyu had greatly increased their abilities even without any strong protector. Su Yu lightly glanced at Zhang Mingyi and Feng Hao before he simply cupped his hands towards senior sister Lu. He nodded, about to leave. Stop! A deep roar came from behind them. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu turned back to face the sullen, cold eyes of Du Lin. Put down the elixirs, Du Lin snarled. Having just seen them kill a level 7 lower tier, Du Lin curbed his bloodlust, afraid of the consequences. Although he was fairly certain that he could kill both of them, he was uncertain that he would leave the battle unscathed. If by any chance, he were to be wounded by the two of them, it could turn bad very fast. He did not want to be wounded in the evil forest. Therefore, Du Lin only ordered them to put down the elixirs, instead of immediately fighting them. Shouldn't you first thank us for lending a hand? Su Yu indifferently replied. Du Lin's face turned red, his expression was exceptionally rude and unreasonable. I didn't ask you for help. Why should I be thankful to you? Su Yu responded with a shrug. Actually, I didn't even think about saving you. I only made a move for senior sister Lu's sake. Otherwise, if you had died I would have only rubbed my palms and laughed. You really don't have to thank me. You. Du Lin's face flushed with anger as he growled, I'm giving a final chance, put down the elixirs or die. Though senior sister Lu was weak and attached to Du Lin, her heart was full of righteousness. Senior brother Du, Su Yu has saved us. How can you be this way? Senior sister Lu asked resolutely. Shut up. I'll kill you too. Du Lin's cold eyes made senior sister Lu's heart jump, and she backed away in fear. Du Lin glared at Su Yu. Good. It looks like you do not intend to hand over the elixirs. Therefore I, Du, shall give it a try and see just how powerful you have become. He growled coldly through clenched teeth. He had already wished to kill Su Yu, and now, provoked by the 3 pieces of Saint-grade spirit elixir, he had finally decided to make his move. Iron Horse Glacier. Du Lin growled as he focused his body into a wonderful state. Holy Decree. A top-grade Holy Decree. Whereas Su Yu's Holy Decree was similar to entering a painting, Du Lin's Holy Decree was like entering a monumental moment in time. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu felt as though they were watching an army of 1,000 soldiers and 10,000 horses, trampling on a winter glacier. The army was destructive, crushing and destroying everything within 10,000 mills, over rivers and mountains. Faced with such an imposing force, Su Yu's heart throbbed. Uninvited despair leaked into his chest. His confidence had diminished before the fight even began. This was Du Lin's Holy Decree, intimidate in order to weaken the enemy's fighting power. Swish. Su Yu resisted the fear in his heart with great difficulty as he held the soft body of Sha Jingyu. Sha Jingyu's palms shivered and her face flushed. She wanted to retreat, but she could feel the warmth and strength of Su Yu's big hands and, surprisingly, her heart gradually became calm and peaceful, her fear completely vanished. As long as Su Yu was around, she had a safe haven from hurricanes and storms of any sort. Deeply calm, Sha Jingyu's snow-white cheeks turned crimson. She took Su Yu's hand and deeply savored the enriching moment of peace. At the same time, Su Yu fell into the state of his Holy Decree. He became disassociated from the material world, melting into a picturesque portrait of himself. Sha Jingyu, who stood with him and held his hand, involuntarily entered the painting realm as well. In that instant, the two of them were like a celestial, immortal couple as they faced the incoming danger. Sha Jingyu's clear eyes slightly closed as she merged into Su Yu's holy decree. Her mind went into a state of emptiness. She could feel the power of his holy decree with her supernaturally powerful insight. Just like that day amidst the pear blossoms under the moonlight, they held their hands together in the same way, comfortable and at peace with each other. When her pretty eyes slowly opened, she felt a profound sense of enlightenment which reverberated in her heart. Su Yu was shocked. Sha Jingyu had actually managed to comprehend his holy decree instantly. Swish. There was no time to think. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu made their move together. Boom. Both holy decrees were superimposed. The endless painting realm spread outward in all directions, swallowing everything within a mile radius. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu took one look at each other. Their hearts connected, they took their shot at the same time. Their conjoined hands shot forward and hit outward with a punch. Rumble. It was clearly only an ordinary punch, but it had caused the entire painting realm to tremble like it was going to crack. In that instant, Dulin's Iron Horse Glacier momentum was annihilated in a puff of smoke. Wow! Dulin's mouth opened and spurted out a mouthful of blood as he fell back a few steps, his face deathly white. His internal organs had suffered several violent jolts, he was seriously injured. His eyes filled with deep horror. 2 level 6 upper tiers had joined forces together and had unexpectedly seriously injured him, despite his powerful condition. Covering his abdomen, Dulin was indescribably horrified. The two of them, joined together as a united force, created a formidable team. Most chilling to see was Su Yu and Sha Jingyu enter a state of comprehension after they had used the holy decree. Just from that single majestic blow, Su Yu was able to comprehend his previously stagnant holy decree. Ever since the holy meet, his comprehension of the holy decree had deepened, profoundly and incomparable. There was a continuous flow now, along with this new comprehension. Even more wondrous was that Su Yu's and Sha Jingyu's holy decrees had come from one source. Now, both of their holy decrees had fused and become superimposed. This led to Su Yu's and Sha Jingyu's comprehension merging. They had achieved mutual awareness. Sha Jingyu's superb powerful insight caused Su Yu's deep and profound comprehension to deepen and transform. Woo! A nameless whirlwind reverberated around their two bodies. Their joined holy decree comprehension surged and soared. Su Yu's eyes glazed over as he slowly raised his finger and muttered, "So this is the holy decree, deliberately harmonizing with nature." Just merging into the painting realm eventually had its flaws. Only when the heart and body belong to nature can every movement in the painting realm become part of the natural realm. Sha Jingyu shared Su Yu's comprehension. Her heart was joyful. She had relied on her extraordinarily powerful insight which had now deepened and transformed, making her comprehension deeper and clearer. The two held hands as they entered the wondrous state. Dulin's eyes were cold as he growled, "You three, go ahead and take this opportunity to kill them." Zhang Mingyi and Feng Hao hesitated. There was no life or death hatred between them and the two standing before them, so there was really no need to kill them. But when they thought of the saint-grade spirit elixir, their hearts became greedy. Eyes flashing, Zhang Mingyi and Feng Hao charged to kill. Swoosh! A beautiful shadow blocked them. It was the seriously injured senior sister Lu. With her dignified expression, senior sister Lu admonished them, "Don't you have any conscience? Without them, the three of us would have already died at the hands of the slayers." Move aside. Zhang Mingyi could not help but feel angry at junior sister Lu. Boom! Bang! Without another word, Zhang Mingyi immediately rushed forward against senior sister Lu. Feng Hao sneered and bypassed the two of them. He quietly sneaked up to attack Su Yu and Sha Jingyu, who were both still in a trance. Feng Hao's heart lamented as he gazed at Sha Jingyu's alluring figure, but his eyes immediately clouded over. "Junior sister Sha, don't blame me for being cruel. If you want to place blame, then blame yourself for choosing the wrong man." Swoosh! A dagger appeared in his palm. Both of his eyes looked vicious and ferocious as he stabbed at them, seeking to cause harm. No! Senior sister Lu was enraged. Zhang Mingyi sneered. Eyes filled with venom, Dulin's sneer was vengeful. Just as it seemed Su Yu and Sha Jingyu's lives were in true danger. Swish! A sharp wave of vital energy whooshed outwards. Ah! Feng Hao's smirking face distorted with pain as he let out several terrible screams. The vital energy pierced his heart and caused his chest to burst. A figure who had remained hidden in the distance abruptly came forward. The Obscurer. Su Yu had taken several precautions before he had involved himself. He had arranged for the Obscurer to hide in the dark, instructed to only strike if there was a crisis. A level 7 lower tier slayer. Du Lin paled. Zhang Mingyi felt fear strike him as the Obscurer's eyes landed on him. Ah! With a shriek, Zhang Mingyi was scared witless and his whole face turned dark crimson. He shoved back senior sister Lu and frantically fled. The Obscurer wanted to take chase but stuck near Su Yu and Sha Jingyu instead. Their comprehension took an hour. When they opened their eyes, a wondrous scene greeted them. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu, with no change to their cultivation bases, emerged with totally different temperaments. It was as if they had gained an additional, inexplicable temperament. Sha Jingyu became more alluring and beautiful than any celestial beauty. Du Lin and the Obscurer were both startled. They were deeply entranced by Sha Jingyu and only recollected themselves after a moment. What is it? Just one look and I'm hypnotized. Du Lin was horrified. Su Yu, with his flowing purple robes and starlike, limitless eyes now carried an air of synthetic artistry around him. His skin, eyes, and hair all seemed hyper-real, as though he had just stepped out from a painting. Senior sister Lu's beautiful eyes fixed on Su Yu's body as she was immersed in the inner meaning of the painting realm which encircled him. Su Yu was also, undoubtedly, a handsome man, and, like handsome men tend to do, his presence made her blush and her heart skip a beat. He was the most beautiful man she had ever seen. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu smiled at each other. Their holy decree journey had made new progress. They had intended for it to happen, but they had fully ingrained themselves with their holy decrees. They now lived in a state of hyper-reality, every movement carrying a strand of their holy decrees. They looked like celestial immortals among men. The power of their holy decrees rose dramatically. Su Yu's gaze fell on Du Lin, his eyes cold. He had originally not intended to kill anyone, but Du Lin had gone too far. This man could not remain. Once again, the sun set as the moon rose. Midnight in the evil forest arrived above their heads. Swish! Su Yu charged forward. His eyes were a dazzlingly dark green which illuminated half of the forest. Ah! Amidst the mournful screams of Du Lin, his soul was successfully controlled by Su Yu. With the damage inflicted to his soul plus his bodily injuries, his ability was only slightly stronger than a level 7 lower tier, much weaker than level 7 upper tier. Su Yu retrieved the spirit elixir from Du Lin, including the previous 3 elixirs. They had a total of 4. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu each had 2, enough to break through to level 6 peak. Senior sister Lu, ahead of us is the inner periphery. It's dangerously unpredictable, you ought to speedily retreat. Su Yu said with his fists cupped. Senior sister Lu gratefully bowed and sighed with a wry smile. After this, I really don't intend to go any deeper into the forest. The opportunities are plenty in the evil forest, but they're more than I can manage. Junior brother Su, junior sister Sha, thank you for your kindness in saving me. I will not cross over. Swish! Senior sister Lu turned away from the forest interior and left the evil forest. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu immediately led Du Lin and the Obscurer away from the spot as they looked for a remote hidden place to swallow the elixir and break through to the next tier. Zhang Mingyi had run in a panic, unaware of where he was going. It was dark when he realized that he'd already accidentally entered the inner periphery. Damn Su Yu! Zhang Mingyi's face was wretched and resentful as he looked around the dark forest, feeling worried. Just then, he discovered a faint flare in the valley ahead. Zhang Mingyi was alarmed instead of happy. His eyes were afraid. He wanted to retreat. The inner periphery was the territory seized by the Slayers. Where there was fire, there were people. There was a chance they could be heavenly disciples, but there was a 90% chance they were Slayers. Furthermore, the heavenly sanctuary disciples had enough common sense to not light fires at night, because the firelight in the night was enough to attract the attention of the Slayers 10 miles away. Therefore, those who lit fires at night would be Slayers, 9 times out of 10. Zhang Mingyi, a level 6 peak of the martial path, could not even compare to the lowest level Slayers. An encounter with one meant death. However, Zhang Mingyi suddenly caught a wisp of a fragrance in the breeze. One light sniff immediately paralyzed his entire body, he found it hard to move. Rustling. Light and graceful footsteps traveled from the darkness, a dark evil laughter like grating metal drifted to his ears. Haha, very sharp, but you were already poisoned when you discovered the firelight. A dark palm covered with pus-filled pimples landed on his shoulder and dragged him into a cave in the darkness. A pearl in the cave emitted some light. What made Zhang Mingyi gasp was that there were 3 corpses turned into pulp inside the cave. The charred bones and the bloody, pulpy flesh gave off an acrid pungent smell. The smell was vomit-inducing. The scattered clothing made Zhang Mingyi even more horrified. Sanctuary disciples. Haha, not bad, you are the 4th sanctuary disciple caught by my devil claws. Zhang Mingyi clearly saw the other person's appearance in the faint light. It was not a face of a human. His features were rotten and his cheek was full of watery pus. A pair of eyes blended into his skin, all blood red colored. You are the Slayer, 9 deadly poison devil. Zhang Mingyi croaked as if he was choked, his expression frightened. The 9 deadly poison devil was known in Baicheng Empire as a fearsome criminal. His ability reached level 7 peak, just slightly away from reaching level 8. However, what terrified most people was his preferred profession, his poison techniques. Steeped in poison techniques all the year round, his mind and temperament were wild. He employed cruel means, like using highly toxic poisons to torture anyone who caught his fancy, to death. The 3 pulpy corpses that lied right there, reeking of blood, were proof enough of the torture that they suffered before their death. The Empire had dispatched masters to hunt and kill him 9 times, and he had narrowly escaped each time. That was how the name 9 deadly poison devil came to be. Haha, you already know my devil name, you should know what the devil wants to do next. The 9 deadly poison devil wore an evil grin on his face. Pop. Zhang Mingyi went soft at the knees and knelt on the ground. His entire body trembled in fear as he groveled, Lord Poison Devil, please let me go. Whatever you want me to do, I'll promise you all. The 9 deadly poison devil, evil grin still as wide, pulled out a bottle of black powder from his shirt. Zhang Mingyi's stomach dropped and suddenly something sparked in his mind, Lord Poison Devil. I know where there are more heavenly sanctuary disciples, they have 4 pieces of saint-grade spirit elixir in their hands. Crack. 4 pieces. The 9 deadly poison devil blood-red eyes flashed red-hot, the bottle in his hand bottle was unconsciously crushed. Zhang Mingyi saw from the corner of his eyes that the jade bottle inlaid on the 9 deadly poison devil's back had been opened and the spirit elixir inside had disappeared without a trace. This led him to think of the death of the 3 heavenly sanctuary disciples. The answer came to him. There were 2 reasons for why the 9 deadly poison devil had hunted and killed heavenly sanctuary disciples here. Firstly, it was to get the jade hammer, open the jade bottle on his back and to retrieve the elixir. Secondly, to cut down the heavenly sanctuary disciples and plunder their elixirs. Lead the way. The 9 deadly poison devil licked his lips, the terrible breath of a level 7 peak vaguely wafted past. Eventually, they arrived at the location of the battle between Suyu and Dulin. The 9 deadly poison devil's bloody eyes looked around as some black poisonous powder sprinkled from his hand. The poisonous powder was sensitive to blood and breath. It formed a thin line on the ground which pointed out the direction of Suyu's hidden cultivation spot. Dulin had bleeding wounds, this was the reason for their discovery. Somewhere around a rock formation in the forest, Suyu commanded Dulin and the Obscurer to stay hidden and guard the spot. He and Sha Jingyu then began their breakthrough. After 2 saint-grade spirit elixirs were swallowed, pure boundless energy imbued their flesh. The lightning speed of their breakthrough was visible to the naked eye for both of their cultivation bases. Swoosh. However, there was suddenly the sound of urgent footsteps. Enemy attack. The Obscurer and Dulin exclaimed at the same time as they emerged from their hiding place and blocked Suyu and Sha Jingyu. At that moment, just as the 2 of them were at the crucial point of their breakthroughs, the enemy invaded. The 9 deadly poison devil appeared, his pus-filled eyes slowly rotating as he fixed his glare on Suyu and Sha Jingyu's persons. The 9 deadly poison devil became exceptionally angry. The elixirs were gone. Fine, while your elixir power is still in the blood, drinking your blood will have the same effect. The 9 deadly poison devil licked his lips, ferocious and inhumane. Invisible kick. The obscurer brazenly attacked. An airtight formation of kicks created a succession of residual images. The full-blown power of a level 7 lower tier was astounding. The corner of the 9 deadly poison devil's mouth curled up into an indifferent sneer. Both his hands were tucked into his sleeves, they did not move one bit. Boom. The obscurer's leg swept forward in a lethal blow to the 9 deadly poison devil's heart. Ah! But, the obscurer screamed once and flew backward. The extent of his right leg's corruption by the watery black blood was visible. The poison spread from his leg to his entire body. In a blink of an eye the obscurer's body turned pitch black, his breath died out, and he perished on the spot. A moment later, his flesh became watery blood. The bloody and savage scene made one's blood run cold. Du Lin looked grave, he knew not to touch the 9 deadly poison devil. Iron Horse Glacier. His whole body poured into his holy decree. Du Lin was like the general of an army of 10,000. His magnificent momentum was crushing and vast. Pop. Not far behind was Zhang Mingyi, both of his legs weakened under the crushing and earth-shattering momentum. He collapsed, throwing up blood. The 9 deadly poison devil's eyes were mocking as he jeered, cheap tricks. Swish. The 9 deadly poison devil was merely seen to flick his finger once and a wisp of black dust fused with his vital energy and ejected. Wow. Pop. In a flash, Du Lin was punctured in the chest. Strong poisonous powder infected his chest and turned into a huge blood hole. He took his last breath on the spot. 2 strong level 7s, wiped out in a snap. The 9 deadly poison devil with his poison techniques and level 7 peak ability was extremely terrifying. Without any more obstruction, the 9 deadly poison devil, with an evil glint in his eyes, darted towards Su Yu and Sha Jingyu. Swoosh. Taking advantage of his nearness, his 2 pus-filled hands reached out to grab both of their heads. Boom. Just as he reached them, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu had their breakthroughs, just in time. The breakthroughs created a violently strong cyclone that hindered the 2 giant hands for a moment. Swish. The 2 of them struck the ground and leapt back. A sweeping glance at the poisoned Du Lin and the obscurer more or less surmised the recent fight. A level 7 peak was the strongest enemy they'd encountered. His body is highly poisonous, do not touch him. Su Yu's revolving pupils detected that his body was covered with a faint layer of poisonous mist, which made it difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. The obscurer, unable to detect the mist, had made contact with the poisonous mist and turned to watery blood on the spot. If they could not attack at close range, then attacking at a distance was the only way. The 2, with their deep connection, naturally held hands and stood. Icy Heart Core. Reverie of Dewdrops. Aha! 10 chilly dewdrops pierced the sky. The 9 deadly poison devil's evil grin froze and his expression turned somber for the first time as he coldly shook his head. You've some skills, what a pity, it was too weak. His hoarse voice crowed. Pop. The 9 deadly poison devil opened his mouth and spewed out 10 drops of highly poisonous blood. Aha! 10 dewdrops were melted by the acid rain. Su Yu's and Sha Jingyu's pupils contracted, even the blood in his body was that toxic. A grave look emerged in their eyes. They glanced at each other once before the 2 nodded and held hands as they prepared to attack. Swoosh. Together, they both instantaneously created a vast painting realm, enveloping everything within a mile radius. Even the 9 deadly poison devil became part of the painting realm. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu held their hands together to strike. They delivered an ordinary, singular punch which contained an inexplicable rhythm. The 9 deadly poison devil gasped and gravely uttered, Saint Grade Holy Decree. Holy decrees were divided into a lower grade, middle grade, and top grade. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu had never heard of a saint grade above top grade before. Boom. Aha. Wow. The 9 deadly poison devil suffered a blow from the virtual rhythm. An enormous blood gouge appeared in the pit of his stomach and he spurted out blood into the air. Thud, thud, thud. Falling a few steps backward, the 9 deadly poison devil's bloody eyes intensified with graveness. He was hurt by this blow, but not seriously. If he were an average slayer, he may have retreated by now, as he had realized that these two disciples would prove challenging. However, no one could speculate on the rationale of the 9 deadly poison devils' ferocious nature. Completely infuriated, the 9 deadly poison devil ominous glint was revealed. Heaven's annihilation. Crash. The 9 deadly poison devil's body shook violently. The poison powder around his body quivered as his surroundings blurred. Leaves rapidly withered and rotted. Grass quickly shriveled and died. Insects were swiftly twisted and perished. Under the shroud of the black poison powder, all living creatures in heaven and earth belonged to the deathly stillness. Oh no! Su Yu and Sha Jingyu were shocked at the same time. They decided their next choice as one and made their move together. Icy heart core. Reverie of dewdrops. Aha! The vapor around them solidified into a thin layer of ice. The incoming poisonous powder was absorbed by the ice, which melded into a black liquid and snaked along the ice wall. The crystal clear ice wall instantly turned pitch black. The terrifying poisonous powder was temporarily warded off, but with more and more poisonous mist coming in, it was hard for the ice wall bear. Crack. The ice wall, unable to withstand such poison, started to crack. The situation was critical. Su Yu's expression was grave. The 9 deadly poison devil was an unprecedented, formidable enemy. Jingyu, I need to take a risk and try something. If I make a mistake, it will be up to you. Su Yu uttered through clenched teeth. Sha Jingyu felt uneasy. Not waiting to hear her objections, Su Yu, eyes flashing, struck. The words uttered by the 9 deadly poison devil had given Su Yu some understanding of his own holy decree. When he joined hands with Sha Jingyu, it could bring out the power of a saint-grade holy decree. So, if he were to make his move alone, the holy decree should only be half the saint-grade level. While his old holy decree was undergoing a transformation, his new holy decree had not yet formed. So there was only half the holy level. Su Yu wasn't sure if he was entirely correct with his newfound understanding, but he was going to have to give his theory a shot. In Su Yu's mind, there already was a concept of a holy decree. Now, in his strong hands, he had formed a newly improved holy decree. Su Yu's every movement looked fluid and natural. Every part of him, inside and out, was simple and natural. Nothing about him was artificially deliberate or man-made. In Su Yu's mind, there was a harmonization of all his learning and comprehension of the holy decree's essence. I am nature, nature is me. Nature in all your power, listen to my command. Swish. As he flew towards the wall of ice, Su Yu's body was like a flashing light and a fleeting shadow. He was as weightless as a feather, drifting in the void. Deep comprehension glimmered in his eyes. Ice and thunder. Feast. Su Yu growled. The natural realm enveloped him from all directions with him as the center. It was as if Su Yu became the supreme ruler of the natural realm. As Su Yu growled, a vision was born. Aha! Sizzle. From Su Yu's index finger came a surge of pure sparkling white ice and violet rays of burning thunder flames. Both fused together into one stream. The fusion of ice and thunder was a convergence of natural powers. A feast of ice and thunder. Ice and thunder feast. Following Su Yu's pointed command, the ice and thunder flames fused together into an alternating purple and white light beam which shot across the sky into the 9 deadly poison devil's chest. Ah! The 9 deadly poison devil's face rapidly changed. He hastily resisted the attack, but this attack in the gesture of a finger resembled nature itself. It contained the power of nature and could not be resisted. Pop! His chest had a huge gaping blood hole made by the ice and thunder flames. The boundless power of nature struck him and sent him flying backward several dozens of feet away, and he heavily slammed against a big tree. As he opened his mouth to violently spurt a mouthful of blood, the seriously injured 9 deadly poison devil looked terrified. Half a divine grade holy decree. No, it's a saint grade holy decree. It's definitely not as powerful as even half a divine grade holy decree. Swish. A transparent silk thread lassoed his neck. The 9 deadly poison devil, with his seriously injured body, found it difficult to fight back. Move and you'll die. Su Yu had the black jade ring in his hand. He gently pulled, tightening the entwined dragon silk wound around the 9 deadly poison devil's neck. A trickle of fresh blood flowed down from the 9 deadly poison devil's neck. The 9 deadly poison devil's face turned to horror as he stopped struggling, not daring to move. Su Yu inwardly nodded. The entwined dragon silk material was astonishing. The 9 deadly poison devil's blood, extremely poisonous and virulent, was helpless against the entwined dragon silk. The 9 deadly poison devil waited for Su Yu to make his move. Suddenly, Su Yu had a sharp pain in his heart. Pop! Su Yu's knees weakened and he fell to the ground, clutching his chest in extreme pain. Visible to the naked eye, a trace of black poison was flowing throughout Su Yu's internal blood energy channel, heading toward his heart. Su Yu had unavoidably inhaled too much poisonous mist in the fight. The poisonous mist in the air had dissipated, but Su Yu was already deeply poisoned. Sha Jingyu's pretty face was devastated. She smashed the ice wall and gracefully dashed over. Her beautiful eyes blinked once as Sha Jingyu pressed her jade-like hands onto Su Yu's chest. Reverie of dewdrops. Crash. The blood in Su Yu's body seeped from his pores and surrounded Sha Jingyu's jade-like hands. The blood was black and poisonous. Sha Jingyu used Reverie of Dewdrops, and the poisonous mist within his blood was absorbed by the water vapor in the air, which transformed into the venom and dripped to the ground. After his blood was clarified, it once again permeated Su Yu's body through his pores and returned to his veins. The 9 deadly poison devil was surprised. Water-based deity-level cultivation technique, with a secret healing technique. Sha Jingyu labored unceasingly. She was soaked in sweat as she carried on her technique, and she was getting weaker and turning pale. Her eyes blacking out, Sha Jingyu almost fainted a few times. But she did not stop until the end. Because, once she stopped, the poisonous blood would attack Su Yu's heart and even the gods would find it hard to save him. Just as Sha Jingyu reached her breaking point, Su Yu's blood vessels were fully cleansed. But Su Yu did not wake up. Instead, within his chest ice was gradually taking over and freezing his body. His life force, as his body increasingly froze, gradually weakened. What's going on? Sha Jingyu's beautiful eyes looked flustered. She glared at the 9 deadly poison devil hatefully. What poison did you give him? The entwined dragon silk around the 9 deadly poison devil's neck was tightly fettered. If Sha Jingyu caught hold of the finger with the black jade ring and gave it a pull, his head would land on the ground, far from his body. Nothing to do with this devil's poison. The 9 deadly poison devil solemnly shook his head. It must have something to do with his cultivation of the deity-level cultivation technique. Just now he succeeded in his comprehension of the Saint-grade holy decree, prompting the deity-level cultivation technique to show signs of a breakthrough. But deity-level cultivation techniques have always been dangerous. During the breakthrough stage, one needs to have one's elders to watch over, as one's life is in great danger during this time. He must be at this stage. Sha Jingyu's beautiful face paled. Deity-level cultivation technique breakthrough. How do I save him? Quickly, say it. Sha Jingyu's tone was urgent and slightly sharp, as she was flustered. She dared not imagine it, but what if Su Yu were to perish? Would she find peace in her heart again? The 9 deadly poison devil's cultivation experience was rich and plentiful, far more than a junior with insubstantial cultivation like Sha Jingyu. After staring intently for a while, he considered the situation for a moment. The only way to save him is to prevent his body from becoming cold. Sha Jingyu felt as if she'd caught a lifeline. She left the dense forest in a flurry to look for firewood. In a blink, she was muddy from head to toe, cutting a sorry figure, as her garments were torn with visible bloodstains. But Sha Jingyu was unaware of her physical state. Her eyes were misty and her whole heart was focused on Su Yu's life and death. With a bonfire burning, the frost on Su Yu's body surface gradually melted as his body temperature gradually returned to normal. Cold. A subconscious murmur came from Su Yu's chilled lips. The ice on the front of his body, which faced the fire, had already melted. But there was still a dead corner of skin on his back where the ice still existed. Sha Jingyu lightly bit her red lips, bent down, and took Su Yu into her embrace as she hugged his cold back to her chest. Hiss! Sha Jingyu gasped. The bone-chilling cold was like ice that pierced her body. She tightly clenched her white teeth and silently endured the cold, the weak corners of her mouth still showing satisfaction and gratification. Your embrace has warmed me many times. This time, let me warm you. The following morning, the faint morning light penetrated the dense forest. Su Yu's whole body was comfortably warm as if he was wrapped in a winter quilt. From his neck down he was even warmer and sweet-smelling, an indescribable sense of coziness covered him. He unconsciously rubbed the soft weight on his chest and buried his face into the warmth, deeply inhaling its intoxicating fragrance. Suddenly, his ears heard a shy voice. Then, the warmth that his head leaned against gently shivered. Su Yu opened his eyes and saw a pleasing sight of a beautiful and exquisite face, eyes still tightly closed and long eyelashes gently fluttering in the breeze. She was as quiet as a beautiful immortal in her deep sleep, her beauty moving him. He had stayed in her arms for an entire night. Her chest still had the remnants of the ice. Boom! Su Yu quickly jumped up. There was a roaring in his head as he focused his gaze and closely examined Xia Jingyu. Her entire body was ice cold and her complexion was slightly pale. She was suffering from signs of hypothermia. He vaguely recalled what had happened the day before, and he instantly understood why she was so cold. Without thinking, Su Yu immediately imbued Xia Jingyu with vital energy to help her dispel the chill inside her body. "I'm sorry." After a long while, Xia Jingyu slowly opened her eyes. Su Yu was remorseful, as well as thankful in his heart. "I'm okay." Xia Jingyu gave a placid smile, dazzlingly beautiful like a summer lotus. Su Yu was filled gratitude and respect. Xia Jingyu had saved his life again. How would Su Yu ever repay her? Su Yu's gaze fell upon the 9 deadly poison devil, and his eyes abruptly turned cold. He stepped forward to immediately use the soul control technique on the already overpowered 9 deadly poison devil. Unfortunately, the spirit elixir inside the jade bottle on the back of the 9 deadly poison devil had already been ingested. Su Yu darkly cursed at his bad luck. There was nothing to be gained from such a dangerously strong individual. The only gain was probably the advancement of his body's ability. His brand new holy decree was no longer the heavenly finger from the old man in the mural. Rather, it was entirely unique to Su Yu. It was the innovative Ice and Thunder Feast. Even more delightful was that the refinement of his holy decree had caused the 2 types of deity-level cultivation techniques to break through dramatically. The first was Icy Heart Core. He actually had a breakthrough in one shot and had reached the upper realm. Although it almost cost Su Yu his life, there was no doubt that the gain was immense. Although Purple Star Thunderbolt had no breakthrough up to the upper realm, he had reached the high point of the lower realm. The thunder flames were more violent and its formidable power had sharply increased. In a sense, Purple Star Thunderbolt was more difficult to comprehend when compared to Icy Heart Core. It was rare and precious to have such a breakthrough. Of course, another gain was gaining control over the 9 deadly poison devil, the terrifying master of poisons, as a puppet. This invisible way of killing was far beyond any ordinary level 7 peak technique. It was extremely horrible but also useful. Though he was badly wounded and his combat power had been halved, there had been no damage to his extensive poison ability. The only pity was that Su Yu would be unable to get the Saint-grade spirit elixir. But on second thought, Su Yu felt once again at ease. They had just entered the inner periphery, there were still plenty of opportunities. Next, he and Xia Jingyu wanted to break through to level 7, so they each needed at least 3 pieces of Saint-grade spirit elixirs, a total of 6 pieces. It would be extremely difficult to track all 6 pieces down. The 9 deadly poison devil only had one on his body, or had, at one point. As he stroked his chin, Su Yu pondered for a moment. He used the soul-seeking technique on the 9 deadly poison devil. The Slayer had stayed in the inner periphery of the evil forest for years and knew of other Slayers' locations. However, while Su Yu was soul-seeking, he unexpectedly discovered another piece of information. The Falcon Conclave. Su Yu was surprised. Previously, when the Sanctuary disciples had launched a large-scale killing expedition in the evil forest, the inner periphery Slayers had been scared. A group of them created the Falcon Conclave in response. Its purpose was to retaliate and kill the invading Sanctuary disciples, so they could seize their jade hammers and retrieve their own spirit elixirs, sealed on their backs. The 9 deadly poison devil had been invited, but he did not participate. Rather, he had operated on his own. The Falcon Conclave had originally only invited 6 people, all level 7 peak Slayers. But because the 9 deadly poison devil had refused, there were 5 people in total. 5 opportunities for Su Yu and Sha Jingyu to get spirit elixirs, all grouped together. With the 9 deadly poison devils' poison techniques and Su Yu's greatly increased ability, they could at least take 2 slayers. Best of all, the Falcon Conclave would gather tonight, and the location was in a valley close by. His eyes brightened as Su Yu discussed his plan with Sha Jingyu. Sha Jingyu's beautiful face still retained some of her blush and she had already tidied her clothing, which was disheveled in the front. Upon hearing about the Falcon Conclave, Sha Jingyu's smile faded. Her eyes filled with worry. It will hard for us to deal with no less than 5 level 7 peaks. With the trio of their abilities, dealing with 3 level 7 peaks simultaneously was their limit. Since there were 5 in total, their victory was nearly impossible to predict. They would be taking an extremely dangerous risk. Only, in their perilous quest for riches, they had gotten their breakthroughs from level 5 upper tier to level 6 peak in just a few days, all thanks to the risks they'd taken. The greater the risk, the greater the gains. If he could not earn the right to become a holy disciple in the storm competition, he may as well die. Su Yu had no choice but to take every risk he could. Lightly tapping his chin, Su Yu discussed his plan with Sha Jingyu. In the dark of the night, the 3 of them moved stealthily and arrived at a spot in the small valley. The valley only had 1 exit, a clear bottleneck for any invaders. It made the valley easy to defend and difficult to attack. The 5 slayers had gathered there, aware of the risks they too had taken by gathering. There were 4 of the 5 slayers inside the valley. They were involved in a discussion around an open fire. The 5th slayer watched over the narrow pass. His purpose was to be on guard and attack any enemies. Looking at the acquired intelligence, such a large entry of disciples arriving from the heavenly sanctuary is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's right, we can rob them of their jade hammers, then use these spirit elixirs embedded in our backs. We're sure to improve our cultivation bases. Hee, how can that be the only benefit? Don't tell me you haven't thought about it before. Once we possess the jade hammers, we can rob and kill other slayers. We too can learn from those disciples. We can rake in the spirit elixirs without restraint, and greatly improve our cultivation bases. The 8 pairs of eyes glowed. The slayers had no qualms about betraying other slayers. Alas, the only pity is that the 9 deadly poison devil did not accept our invitation. With his poison techniques, poisoning a bunch of slayers would be child's play. Everyone nodded and darkly muttered with regret. Just then, a light chuckle came from the valley opening. Since you missed the 9 deadly poison devil so much, I came to deliver him to you. Su Yu stood with his hands behind his back as he entered the valley. The 4 slayers' color changed with a flash of understanding. They glanced over and glared at the young man and the young lady who walked side by side. Behind them was the poisonous, pus-filled face of a middle-aged man. Who else could it be other than the 9 deadly poison devil? They looked again at that slayer guarding the pass, who had long since been secretly poisoned and had already been reduced into a pile of watery blood. Everyone be careful. The 9 deadly poison devil is being controlled. One of the shocked slayers loudly warned the others when he detected that the 9 deadly poison devil's gaze was slightly lifeless. The 9 deadly poison devil was being controlled. Exactly what type of strange cultivation technique would allow such a strong man to be manipulated? They'd gathered here for the sake of safety in numbers, but, instead, they had been unexpectedly trapped by the mighty to be killed like fish in a barrel. The only exit was occupied by Su Yu and his company. The 4 slayers were all cunning individuals. To capture the thief, first capture his king. 2 of us must catch the 9 deadly poison devil, and the other 2, quickly kill those 2 ignorant kids. The 4 slayers exchanged a look, then tacitly coordinated their moves and divided themselves accordingly. Kill. Swish, swish, swish. The terrifying level 7 peak power, present in all the slayers, came crashing toward Sha Jingyu and Su Yu. Fortunately, the notorious 9 deadly poison devil, still a fearsome presence among slayers, had distracted half of the enemies. There were only 2 remaining level 7 peak slayers, each determined to capture and kill Su Yu and Sha Jingyu. Reverie of dewdrops. Sha Jingyu looked pleased and unafraid as she fought skillfully and easily. Although surrounded by perils, she did not falter. Her ability was not that much lower than a level 7 peak. Another slayer with an ominous glint in his gaze, charged toward Su Yu. Boy, I wonder how your ability compares to your girl. The Slayer sneered, staying extremely vigilant. Su Yu's purple clothes gently fluttered and his ink-black hair blew upwards. His deep eyes reflected self-confidence, about the same. Then you can die. The Slayer, upon hearing the faint mocking tone of Su Yu's words, warily made his move. Fiery fists. Both his fists blasted the air with bursts of sparks, like the air was burning. Su Yu's eyes flashed and he brazenly counterattacked, icy heart core. Su Yu attacked with both fists. Both of his fists were ordinary, without vital energy or skill. Like a fist of a mortal, it was completely without power. Boom. Bang. However, when the four fists collided. Crack. The level 7 peak Slayer was instantly frozen. His body was thickly covered with icicles, and he was unable to move one bit. His entire person had solidified into a crystal-clear ice sculpture. The Slayer's breath completely froze. The Slayer in combat with Sha Jingyu gasped. Just one blow had turned the enemy into a frozen ice sculpture. What is this horrifying technique? With a cold flash in his eyes, Su Yu quickly retrieved the spirit elixir and darted over to Sha Jingyu's side in a flurry of purple shadows. He joined forces with her against the enemy. Crack. Inadvertently, the Slayer was turned into an ice sculpture. The two Slayers who were entangled with the 9 deadly poison devil were horror-stricken. You and I will split and run. Su Yu's ferocity made the Slayers lose their fighting confidence. After withdrawing from the 9 deadly poison devil, they separated and fled towards the valley pass. This way, there was only a 50-50 chance that the 9 deadly poison devil might grab one of them. Either way, at least one would escape. The person on the left side was the unlucky one. He was intercepted by the 9 deadly poison devil, who instantly killed him with poison. The other Slayer fled toward the pass. Su Yu's eyes flashed and he gave chase as Sha Jingyu retrieved the spirit elixir from the poisoned Slayer. It was unusual for everything to go without a hitch. The 9 deadly poison devil silently poisoning and killing the Slayer on guard had been the key, but, more importantly, they had depended on Su Yu's terrifying ability. Sha Jingyu's beautiful eyes were worried. Her ability was holding Su Yu back a bit. On the other side of the valley, Su Yu sped to catch up with and kill the remaining Slayer. Once he defeated him, he and Sha Jingyu could collect the 5th spirit elixir, after which, they would only need one more before they could break through to level 7. Swish. However, just as the Su Yu was about to catch up to the Slayer, a fierce red-clad figure suddenly burst into the valley. Aha! Ah! Dozens of feet away, the red-clad figure, with a flex of the finger, sent out a frightening stream of vital energy which sent shivers down Su Yu's spine. The vital energy stream exploded the Slayer's flesh and body to smithereens. What level of vital energy had such incredible power? Su Yu turned and saw a scar-covered face of a thick, large man. The corners of his mouth formed a somewhat evil grin. His ability caused one's hair to stand on end. Level 8 lower tier. Su Yu gasped. He was actually a strong level 8. Su Yu did not attempt to retrieve the spirit elixir on the body of the Slayer directly in front of him. Instead, without any hesitation, he turned and ran back inside the valley. He's pretty sharp. The level 8 Slayer recalled his vital energy with his finger, which was hidden behind his back. If Su Yu had hesitated for a moment, he would have suffered the same end as the Slayer, obliteration. But now, would my killing him not be like shooting a fish in a barrel? Boy, you all can't escape. The strong level 8 man leaned down and ripped the jade bottle from the Slayer's back. He had not gotten the jade hammer and, therefore, his next targets were Su Yu and Sha Jingyu. Sha Jingyu, back with their spirit elixirs, glimpsed Su Yu's grim expression face when he rushed back. She slightly frowned. Su Yu, what happened? Su Yu's heart pounded. Uneasy thoughts rushed forth. If the profile information on each Slayer was correct, then that red-clad big man was the extremely savage Thousand Miles Butcher. Rumor had it that after he'd advanced to level 8 lower tier, he had killed people along 1,000 miles, giant saber in hand. Blood had flowed and skeletons littered the 1,000 miles road. Of the Empire's strong level 8 men who had pursued him, 3 out of 4 died at his hands. One of them was lucky to have escaped and returned with both of his wrists cleanly snapped. The heavenly sanctuary dispatched many prospective holy disciples before they successfully seized and captured him. To run into such a savage and terrible person. That was definitely an unfortunate encounter for Su Yu. Not to mention Su Yu was alone. Even if he were to join forces with Sha Jingyu and the 9 deadly poison devil, it would still be difficult to resist a blow or two from the 1,000 Miles Butcher's hands. What made Su Yu's heart feel even grimmer was that they were trapped in the valley. When he saw Sha Jingyu approach, Su Yu's eyes filled with urgency. Looking around, Su Yu suddenly came up with a solution to this emergency. He would have to take another great risk. Swish. It was too late to even waste a second to explain his plan. Su Yu dashed forward and grabbed hold of Sha Jingyu's barely their waist. Sha Jingyu was stunned and her face blushed crimson. "Hold on tight," Su Yu shouted. The entwined dragon silk in his fingers suddenly flung out, 300 feet long and transparent. Su Yu cast it toward the top of the valley. Aha! The end section of the entwined dragon silk fiercely shot to the top of a wide-barreled tree at the peak of the valley and twined itself around a thick branch. Lightly tapping his toe tip, Su Yu pushed his floating light shadow to the limit. Su Yu stepped on the sheer cliff and precipitous rock face like a parkour warrior and climbed towards the top of the valley. Su Yu's body was as light as a bird. The light and graceful Sha Jingyu in his arms did not affect Su Yu's movement technique. Sha Jingyu's heart was in her throat as she held on tight to Su Yu, her petite head buried deep into his chest. She only dared to open one eye and saw they were dozens of feet away from the ground. Her heart started beating wildly. What truly terrified Sha Jingyu, however, was the sight of a red-clad hulking figure who charged into the valley. The 9 deadly poison devil, defying life and death, charged forward and fully unleashed his range of poison techniques. As powerful as the 9 deadly poison devil was, however, he was still instantly obliterated by the red-clad big man. With a snap of his fingers, the 9 deadly poison devil was exterminated with a blood-curdling scream on the spot. 1,000 Miles Butcher. Sha Jingyu's pretty face turned pale. She knew the origins of the red-clad big man, considered an extremely dangerous slayer among all slayers. 1,000 Miles Butcher looked around and was surprised to see there was no trace of Su Yu. Then he glanced up and was astonished to discover Su Yu holding Sha Jingyu as he gracefully climbed upwards. He was nearly 300 feet from the top of the valley. He had nearly escaped. Such a powerful movement skill. What a tough and durable silk thread. The 1,000 Miles Butcher looked astounded. Immediately after, his look was replaced by a savage glint in his eyes. He grinned evilly as he lifted his finger and a frightening vital energy launched towards them. "If I let you escape, wouldn't I become a laughingstock?" Rumble. Feeling the frightening vital energy, Su Yu felt a sense of foreboding send chills down his spine. Just things seemed hopeless. Su Yu suddenly exerted more force into his technique. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu, under the pull of the entwined dragon silk, swung midair in a semicircle. Bang, boom, pow. As they swung away, their original position was blasted by vital energy, leaving a huge gaping hole 10 feet in diameter. The solid rock wall was cracked into countless pieces and several boulders tumbled down 300 feet below and smashed on the ground. It sounded as if the sky itself had collapsed. If they had stayed where they were, they would have been struck and sent to the ground along with the rockslide. They would have been crushed. Taking advantage of the blast, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu glided to the peak of the valley. Su Yu gave the entwined dragon silk a pull, taking advantage of their momentum as he pulled them from the air back to a boulder above valley. Quickly go. Su Yu's head felt numb. They made their escape out of the valley, but that did not mean that everything was over. The horror of level 8 was definitely not something Su Yu had anticipated. Floating light shadow. Su Yu carried Sha Jingyu as they leapt through the forest to the mountains, a span of 30 feet with a light tap. The two of them left a bit of thread in the air. Want to run? Huh. The 1,000 Miles Butcher looked savage. He was faster than Su Yu by a hair's breadth. He dashed out of the valley to pursue Su Yu. Half a day later, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu had fled to the outer periphery. Su Yu looked back, activated his enhanced sight, and was slightly surprised. 3 miles away, still in pursuit. It seemed that the 1,000 Miles Butcher was an expert in tracking. He'd chased them for dozens of miles and had not lost their trail. Su Yu and Sha Jingyu's mood was tense, they were on edge. Once he caught up, both of them would have no chance of survival. As for calling for help, among the 10 great prospective holy disciples, only the top 3 could stand a chance against the Thousand Miles Butcher. There was no one they could ask for help. The distance between them and the Butcher was closing fast. There's only one thing left to try, Su Yu said through clenched teeth. An unprecedented enemy had left Su Yu with no choice but to give his all and put everything on the line. With the sunlight and shade interlacing at his feet, a fleeting purple shadow cut through the forest. Half a day later, Su Yu faced the Thousand Miles Butcher at a distance of no less than 300 feet apart. Within 300 feet was the kill range for the Thousand Miles Butcher. You two children, you're both so arrogant to let me chase you all day and night. The Thousand Miles Butcher grinned nastily, there was barely concealed anger in his tone. A dignified level 8 lower tier had spent a whole day chasing 2 level 6 peak juniors. If word got out, everyone would think it was outrageous. The purple-clad boy had top-rate speed, thanks to his movement technique. He was just slightly slower than the Slayer by only a few beats. A day of pursuit had only intensified the Thousand Miles Butcher's killing intent. Luckily for him, the Thousand Miles Butcher had sensed Su Yu's physical strength was largely used up, as his speed gradually declined. He was 1,000 feet away one moment, then 700. 600. 300. Before, finally, the Slayer stood only 100 feet away. The Thousand Miles Butcher sneered as he amassed his vital energy in his fingers. It was enough to penetrate any enemy within 300 feet. Die. The Thousand Miles Butcher flagrantly made his move. 300 feet of vital energy was loudly launched toward Su Yu's heart from behind. Swish. Just in time, a winding cave emerged just ahead and Su Yu dodged inside, still carrying Sha Jingyu. Boom. The Thousand Miles Butcher's accumulated vital energy shot was forced to divert from its target. Instead of Su Yu, the vital energy hit some century-old ancient trees off to the side. 3 massive trees were smashed with a loud rumble. Vexation appeared in the Slayer's eyes. Damn boy. If he were to destroy the cave, the rocks would either crush or trap the 2 disciples. It would take Thousand Miles Butcher time to dig them out, and he would have to spend significant energy to do so. Additionally, what if the jade hammers are destroyed in the collapse? No, attacking the cave was out of the question. They've brought on their own destruction. The Thousand Miles Butcher coolly glanced at Su Yu, who was breathless and pale as he stumbled into the cave. His energy was already spent. But the Thousand Miles Butcher was not reckless. His intuition told him that perhaps Su Yu was counting on something inside the cave. Cautiously arriving before the cave and squatting down, the Thousand Miles Butcher carefully looked inside, and his pupils suddenly dilated. At the cave's entrance, there were several extremely fine entwined dragon silk threads, strung up at neck height. They were set up silently by Su Yu after he entered the cave. If the Slayer had quickly charged, he would have inevitably been dismembered by the sharp, entwined silk thread. The Thousand Miles Butcher was nervous. He angrily laughed and took several large strides into the cave. I've been pursued and hunted by men stronger than you many times. You think a mere little trick can deceive me? Ah. His voice had not finished before there was suddenly an empty space at the feet of the Thousand Miles Butcher. A thought flickered through his head. Could it be that this was a series of traps? The Thousand Miles Butcher was, after all, no ordinary man. His reaction speed was extremely fast. Just as the floor opened beneath him, one hand grasped the edge of the trap and he did not fall. He looked down and saw the bottom of the trap was densely covered with sharp spikes up to 2 feet tall. If he had fallen in, his body would have been impaled many times over and he would have died. The Thousand Miles Butcher gasped, what a close call. The murderous rage in his eyes surged. He had nearly fallen into the hands of a level 6 boy twice. The Thousand Miles Butcher looked murderous. Boy, I want you to die a horrible death. The Thousand Miles Butcher's voice spontaneously stopped. When he had started to climb the rock face, he had suddenly found his other arm did not obey. In fact, that arm was not there at all. Suddenly, he began to fall. He looked down and saw his body from his chest down was all cut up, with flesh from his wounds falling downward. Looking closer, there was a dense layer of transparent silk thread at chest level. It was like a spider web, all evenly laid out in the trap. Anything that fell in would be cut into chunks by the razor-sharp spider web. Though the 1,000 Miles Butcher did not fall into the bottom, he'd already fallen into the razor-sharp web made from the entwined dragon silk. He had already been cut into pieces, because it was so sharp, he had only just now started to actually separate. Boom! Both his eyes turned white. The remaining half of the 1,000 Miles Butcher, still unable to reconcile with his fate, fell to the bottom of the trap as he took his last breath. Among all Su Yu's enemies, there was no doubt the 1,000 Mile Butcher had suffered the most miserable death by dismemberment. Not long after the Slayer fell, Su Yu dragged his tired body out of the cave. He stood on the edge of the trap, his expression grateful. This particular trap, along with those which covered the whole cave, had been set up by obscure fiendish duo to lure them in and trap them. Before they had left the cave the first time, Su Yu felt the traps could be valuable in the future. He had laid an additional layer of the entwined dragon silk in the trap, and now it had finally come in handy. Although this trip had been treacherous, they had managed to ensnare and kill a level 8 lower tier. It was unimaginable. Su Yu took the 1,000 Miles Butcher's spirit elixir and combined it with the spirit elixir he had plundered in the valley. He set the traps back up and went back inside the cave. In addition to the 4 pieces they already had, plus 2 from the 1,000 Miles Butcher, there were 6 in total. 3 pieces for Su Yu and 3 pieces for Sha Jingyu. Both of them were filled with anticipation and nervousness as they swallowed their pieces of spirit elixir on the spot. This time, they were going to break through to level 7. Sha Jingyu's father, the Martial Arts Training Institute's housemaster, had only reached a mere level 7 lower tier in his 40 years of cultivating. They had only entered the sanctuary a few days ago. Could they possibly surpass their parents' generation? How could they not look forward to that and be excited? The thing that made Su Yu feel equally excited as well as envious was when he observed the way level 7s and above could exude energy from their bodies. They could wound people dozens of feet behind them. Su Yu had coveted that ability for a long time. He swallowed the spirit elixir and closed his eyes in preparation for the breakthrough. The potent strength of the elixir melted into Su Yu's limbs and bones, nourishing every fiber of his being. An hour later, a buzzing sound filled the air. The air slightly vibrated. Boundless waves of energy simultaneously surged through his and Sha Jingyu's entire bodies. Both opened their eyes simultaneously and an abundance of powerful vital energy started exuding from their bodies through their pores. Swish! Su Yu flexed his thumb and forefinger together and touched the tips. A boundless vital energy compressed into a narrow flow and blasted outward. Bang! The rock wall trembled and cracks developed across the surface. Then, a portion collapsed explosively. Su Yu was happy and Sha Jingyu felt even more wonderful than before. If her father could see her achievement now, how proud would he be? After the breakthrough of their cultivation base, the two immersed themselves into their comprehension of cultivation techniques. With joining the upper realm of Icy Heart Core, Su Yu became better practiced in the technique. His one palm could now turn the enemy into ice sculptures. It truly deserved to be called a deity-level cultivation technique. He made the greatest progress with floating light shadow. Through days of fleeing and using it in various ways, he had unknowingly caused a breakthrough to stage 2 top class. Now, when he used that technique he could glide 20 meters with one step. If he could break through to stage 3, he could fly high up in the sky. Just thinking of it, Su Yu was filled with endless anticipation. Rumor said that the deities could fly in all directions high up in the void of the sky. This power could be within Su Yu's control soon. Of course, this adventure had come at a cost. A powerful assistant like the 9 deadly poison devil had been killed by the 1,000 Miles Butcher's vital energy. His body was lying cold in the valley. Stroking his chin, Su Yu slightly muttered to himself while thinking. After a day, he returned to the valley with Sha Jingyu. Looking around at his surroundings, Su Yu spent 2 full days setting up the valley. Brother Yu, who are you dealing with by setting up this trap? Sha Jingyu squatted off to the side, her spotless chin rested on her snow-white slender arms, and she wore a demure and placid expression as she watched Su Yu set up with interest. Su Yu shook his head. It's for a rainy day, in case we encounter unexpected enemies, he said. Oh, Sha Jingyu smiled prettily as she gazed at Su Yu's figure of concentration. Her heart swelled sweetly. It seemed was endlessly joyful about feeling so at peace by Su Yu's side. After 2 days, Su Yu cut a sorry figure and was utterly exhausted. The whole little valley had been booby-trapped. Everywhere was filled with traps, invisible dangers capable of killing anyone who wandered into them. If enemies tried to invade the valley, Su Yu could rely on the traps to fight back. After setting up everything, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu left the valley. Standing at the valley pass, Su Yu stared into the depths of the inner periphery. Now was the time to explore deeper. The common inner periphery no longer had many slayers, and Su Yu and Sha Jingyu wanted a breakthrough to the next tier. For that, they each needed 4 pieces of spirit elixir, therefore, the 2 of them would require 8 pieces in total. That many slayers could only be found in the depths of the inner periphery. As he scanned ahead, Su Yu's pupils suddenly dilated. A level 8 lower tier slayer. 3 miles away, a level 8 slayer was oddly dashing towards the outer periphery. Su Yu already knew about this slayer. His profile showed he was a rapist from Qingcheng Empire who had dishonored countless innocent women, Yuwuhua. The rumor was that any woman he had ever had his eyes on had never been able to escape the palm of his hand, and all were maimed and murdered by him. From ordinary civilians to princesses, many women had been brutally dishonored by him. He had wreaked havoc on the Qingcheng Empire for 10 years. Countless women had suffered from his persecution, and many women who had cherished their innocence, unable to bear any dishonor and face the world, committed suicide. The scourge was abhorrent and repugnant. In the end, the sanctuary had stepped in and captured him. Upon learning it was Yuwuhua, Sha Jingyu, as a young woman, was even more disgusted. Now, with both of their abilities greatly advanced and their breakthroughs to level 7, they would not need to be as terrified of fighting a level 8 anymore. Let's give it a try. Sha Jingyu's beautiful eyes implied a sense of anticipation. With Su Yu's pupils locked onto Yuwuhua, he would never escape their gaze. Half a day, somewhere along the river, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu, concealed by the water, observed Yuwuhua from afar. 30-something years old and young in appearance, his features were attractive, more beautiful than a woman's. He wore a suit of flowing green clothing of an elegant and smart style. If they did not see the depravity hidden in his eyes, it would be hard to imagine this was the brutal rapist, Yuwuhua. Hee, I sent some friends from afar, how fun. Since my 2 friends are here, why not come out and show yourselves? Yuwuhua lightly glanced straight at where Su Yu and Sha Jingyu were hiding. Such keen awareness. Su Yu was secretly surprised. Swish. Out in a flash, Su Yu and Sha Jingyu glared at him. This was the first confrontation with a strong level 8 that held any true significance. Yuwuhua swept past Su Yu and laid his eyes on Sha Jingyu, his eyes bright and blazing. Wonderful. Really wonderful. Of all the women lucky enough to sleep with me, Mr. Yu, no more than 5 could compare to you. Sha Jingyu's pretty face turned angry. Destroy a person's innocence, maim someone, and you call those women lucky. Despicable scoundrel, even death is too good for you. Hee, little beauty, did you know you're even more alluring when angry? Mr. Yu, take pity on you. I've decided you'll serve me tonight. Yuwuhua greedily stared at Sha Jingyu, looking her up and down. Su Yu's eyes slightly cooled, and he brazenly made his move. Icy heart core. Bang, boom, pow. A pair of fists containing a veiled chill attacked Yuwuhua with a loud rumble. With a slight smile on Yuwuhua's lips, his eyes became grave. He felt a massive amount of power coming from Su Yu's one punch. Pop. Yuwuhua turned over his palm to take out a fan concealed by his vital energy. He abruptly pointed it forwards. Su Yu's punch and Yuwuhua's fan suddenly collided. Boom. Ice formed on the fan and it was smashed into several pieces. Yuwuhua's expression slightly changed. He gave up his fan just in time and stepped back several steps. Su Yu haphazardly retreated several steps away from being struck by the powerful vital energy of a level 8. The two's blows were both equally powerful.